Welcome to the first podcast lecture for church history. Please listen carefully and follow the directions as you proceed through the slide presentation. Feel free to print slides or take extra notes beyond your notes packet information. These are good study habits to build. Before the lecture begins, please take time to review this slide outlining the Roman emperors during the development of the very early church. Do you remember what the Roman emperors are called? That's right, Caesars. You saw this list during our Jewish culture unit in New Testament. Now that you have a sense of the timeline that we will be addressing, listen to the following section and fill out blanks on your notes packet, number 9, regarding the Zealot Revolt. Feel free to take extra notes in the margin. You will see this reminder before each section of the lecture. Thank you. While Christians are facing persecution as the result of Nero's accusations to the community, the Zealots are dealing with their own frustrations. Since Caligula Caesar threatened the autonomy of the Jews in their worship and temple dealings, the Zealots have been ready to begin their revolt against Rome. By 66 CE, the Jews were ready to take advantage of Roman strife to strike against threats to their practice of religion and their ability to rule themselves. The revolt was not successful. Not only did the Romans outmatch the Jews turned on themselves as Jewish leaders failed to protect those who revolted in other areas of Palestine. The Zealots managed to hold out for 4 years, but about 1 million Jews died in the struggle, many at the hands of their fellow Jews. In 70 CE, Caesar Vespasian's son Titus stormed Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, decidedly ending the revolt. The temple was never rebuilt, causing major changes in the Jewish religion and beginning an era of Roman persecution on the Jewish community. The Pharisees emerged as the leaders of the persecuted Jewish community and demanded conformity with all Jewish laws. This presented a problem for the Christian community, for many community members were Gentile converts and did not follow all the Jewish laws. Recall that they did not follow the dietary laws and were not circumcised. Therefore, the gap between Jews and the new Christian communities grew. The final break between Christians and Jews does not officially occur for about 20 years, or around 90 CE. This was when the Jews set their canon, or official list, of scriptures. The Jews only included books from the Hebrew tradition, whereas Christians studied those of the Greek translation, the Septuagint, as the Septuagint included the books Jesus studied. Also, the canon of Jewish scriptures did not include any mention of Jesus or the inclusion of any of the new writings about Jesus. Speaking of scriptures, take a minute to review this timeline of Christian scriptures. Recall that the apostles did not choose to take the time to write down their stories or teachings of Jesus because they were busy evangelizing. They believed Jesus might return in their lifetime and wanted to be sure to gather as many followers as they can. As time progressed, however, the community realized the need to preserve the apostles' teachings and Jesus' stories in writing. In this section, please fill out blanks in your notes packet number 11 on the church's emerging structure. Feel free again to take extra notes in the margin. After this section, please check assignment 3, number 27 for accuracy. Just as the Jewish community felt the need to organize themselves in the midst of persecution in order to survive, so did the Christian community. As the apostles traveled and died, bishops or supervisors were elected to lead the community's worship and continue their missionary efforts to evangelize. As these bishops traveled, elders were appointed to the Christian communities while they were away. These elders were called presbyters. Today we call them priests. We met deacons in Acts of the Apostles, as the church leaders needed worthy assistants to help take care of the local communities. Deacons and deaconesses helped minister to the people of the community. The bishop or leader of the community at Rome was considered the successor of the Apostle Peter. Peter formed the strong Christian community at Rome and died in Rome as well. Also, Jerusalem, which had been the strongest and largest Christian community, had gone underground with the Roman attack of Jerusalem, and many of the Christians had fled. Rome became the community Christians looked to for guidance and hope in the midst of persecution. Also, the Bishop of Rome was seen as very brave, for under persecution, the average lifespan of this leader was mere months after election. To appoint deacons and presbyters, apostles and bishops laid hands on them. This is the beginning of the sacrament Catholics call holy orders or ordination. To provide even more structure, early compilations of Christian scriptures develop, and the early Apostles' Creed, or statement of the Christian's belief, is also formed. As we have discussed, many of the apostles were killed in Roman persecutions. Feel free to review this slide to see what church tradition believes happened to the apostles. In this section, please fill out blanks on your notes packet number 12 and number 13 on the new wave of Christian persecution. Feel free, again, to take extra notes in the margin. After this section, check assignment 3, numbers 24, 28, and 29. In the early 100s CE, Roman law makes Christianity illegal. This time there seemed to be a more valid reason for this policy, unlike Nero's persecution and being included in the Jewish persecution after the Zealot revolt. A new wave of Roman persecution against Christians begins. Christians were seen as a threat to internal security, for they refused to make sacrifices to Roman gods. They also did not believe the Roman emperor was divine, so did not worship him or pay him homage. Also, Christians would not fight for Rome or serve in the military. This was all seen as betrayal to the Romans, who were facing a serious threat from the barbarians from the north. The barbarians, or hairy ones, did not fight as the Romans fought. They raided in bands all along the northern Roman border, making it very difficult for the Romans to defend against these sporadic attacks. The Christians were seen as dissenters. If a person was accused of being a Christian, he or she could face death for treason, dying in the Roman circuses, or even on a cross. To avoid these punishments, the person was asked to make sacrifices to the Roman gods. After having done so, this person would receive a certificate saying that they had made the sacrifices. Many Christians refused to make the sacrifices, so died for their faith in Jesus. Because of these martyrs' convictions and the pacifism of the Christian community, pacifism is their refusal to fight, many converted to Christianity. Emperor Diocletian was a strong Caesar during these times of barbaric raids, and he continued the persecution of Christians. He destroyed churches, burned books, and executed church leaders for their refusal to conform to the Roman way of life. Although a persecutor of Christians, Diocletian is known in Roman history as being a very competent Caesar who was successful in protecting Rome against barbaric raids through a reorganized civilian government and strong demands for conformity and unity. Diocletian's treatment of Christians is one of the last persecutions the community will face before change occurs. This concludes the Unit 1 online lecture. Thank you for your attention and work. Please bring any questions you have to class, and be sure to double-check your reading assignments to make any corrections. Thank you.